Hey everyone, Connie from the Painting Photographer. I'm here with Sonnet and her creative group. We have a collaboration for you. The theme is Snowman. And of course, if you've known me and you've followed me for a while, you know that I love to paint snowmen. So I thought, why not just teach you how to paint a snowman? I'm sure these ladies are going to show you many other ways to incorporate snowmans into your decor and how to DIY them. But my favorite is teaching you how to paint. So I hope you join me and watch and follow along. This snowman, if you're gonna paint something and you're gonna listen to my instructions and paint your own, I taught 30 women, I think it was 30 the other night, 2 weeks ago, how to paint this same snowman. And I should have taken a video because it would have been perfect to insert it in here, but I did not. And they all turned out so well. And I was proud of each and every one of them, and their snowman really made them happy. So I hope that you paint one with me, and I'll see you at the end.
All right, this is the snowman that we're going to paint tonight on our YouTube video. This snowman, people get intimidated because it has a lot of shadows, but I'm going to show you how to do that. So the first thing that we're going to do is take some DIY paint in weathered wood, and we're going to draw and paint out that bottom snowball. So this is just going to be a 2 snowball snowman. And so I'm just using weathered wood, and sometimes the paint likes to drag. You can mist it with your water bottle if you want it to flow a little bit easier. I like my edges to be nice and sharp, and so I hold my paintbrush at a little bit more aggressive touch, and so that it flattens out onto the canvas and makes that flat line versus a staggered line. So then after I get the bottom one done, I can go in and make that top head snowball for the snowman. And I don't plan this out. I don't draw it out. I just go in with the paintbrush and make it up as I go along. Again, pushing the brush against the canvas to make that nice flat edge on the outside. So again, people wonder, why am I painting this snowman brown? Well, because that's what makes the shadows. So then I dip into my white swan DIY paint, and I fill in that dark brown with some white swan, making it just not quite so dark, and letting the shadows and all those variations occur where they do. So you can see at some of the places I didn't cover up the brown totally. That's fine, you don't have to. And so like right there, I skipped by its neck, and then I just go and cover everything in, and making that a nice brown snowman. I am off camera here, but I did do the same thing for the bottom for the snow. So you don't want your snowman to come right to the bottom of your canvas. You want about an inch from the bottom of the canvas, and then you're just going to make some brown snow down there as well. I let that snowman dry just a little bit. It's still a bit on the tacky side, not too wet any longer. And then I go in with some more white swan and fill in some of that area again, letting those shadows happen. So this is all in the layered process. You just want to layer the paint on, which gives it a more um, a painterly look to it. So on that right side there, you can tell I didn't go all the way to the outside of the snowman. That's what is making a nice shadow over there. And the going on the left hand side, it's got a little bit more white look to it, which makes the snowman appear more round when it's light on one side and darker on the other. I did paint 2 snowmen, and you're going to see me go back and forth between the 2 snowmen, and I just thought that would be easier for you to paint along with me.
I am going to interrupt this video to let you know that this is part of a collaboration. So the description below will have the playlist of all the different snowmen that everyone created. So please, when you're finished with this one, head on down to that description, hit that playlist, and watch them all. Thank you so much. And if you would like any of these DIY products that I use to paint this snowman, you can find them at thepaintedphotographer.com and I'll ship them right to your front door. If you're local, I do sell my products at Foreman's Farm Home, South 8th Street in Medford, Wisconsin.
While we wait for that white paint to dry thoroughly this time, we're gonna make sure that it's thoroughly dried. I wipe off my paintbrush. I don't normally clean my paintbrush, I just wipe it off. And then I come in with a little black dress and I make a line across the snowman's head. And it's kind of a curvy line. And then I turn my canvas around and finish it off with the other side. Using the tip of your brush helps for your brush strokes. Then his hat is going to come to the outsides of his head. I'll show you on the second snowman how if you don't come to the outside of his head, it doesn't make it look like it's sitting on his head. So there it's just a line across and then the top of his hat with that little black dress. Now you want the hat to make it look like it's sitting on his head, so you come in on the sides with a little tiny triangle. And I just use the corner of my brush and form that side right there, and then I fill it in. So now it looks like that hat is sitting on his head and it's on the back side of his head, and it wraps around. I wipe off my brush with a baby wipe and I put a little bit of white swan on my brush and go back in and fill that brim of that hat to make that highlighted edge of that hat. And those triangles that wrap around his hat, they're going to stay nice and black, and that's what's going to make it look like it's sitting on his head. So making a highlight with white swan on the top of his hat too. So here we're going in on the second one. So I make that first line across his head, turn my canvas around using the corner of my brush and filling in on the second side. And then I flip it around again. And this is what I'm going to show you. So if you make that top of that hat and not the size of his head, then it looks kind of silly, right? So we're going to fill that hat in to the sides of his head to make it look like it's sitting on his head. This still doesn't look like it's sitting on his head because the corner of his head is like not where it's supposed to be. So I purposely did that so you could see that this is not how you want it to look. Then I filled in those two triangles on the outsides to make it look like it was wrapping around his head. And now I'm going to go in with the highlight. I still have that hat looking kind of goofy, and that's on purpose. I want you to see how that doesn't look like it's quite on his head correctly. So I go in with the highlight there, and we think we're done. It's just paint. We can fix anything. So I am fixing up a little bit of that highlight, and now I'm going to come down and finish out his hat on that side of his head, and making it look more black so it has a round effect to it. Light on one side, dark on the other side will give you that round look. And then I'm just filling in that back side because it got a little bit on the white side, so I'm filling it in to make it look like it's going around his head. Here we are with two different brushes. So I've been using the larger brush all along, and now I'm going in with a little bit smaller brush, and I'm going to make his scarf. And I'm going in with Marquee from DIY Paint, which is of my favorite red, and just using the width of the brush, I am just making that scarf across his neck. And using that edge of that brush will give you a rounded look on the edge. And now you can see on the other side, it's kind of square. So I have to turn my canvas around to make that rounded look on the other side for his scarf. And that makes a perfect scarf. It's just the width of the brush. So choose your brush by the width of the scarf that you want. And then you can make it just a little bit larger than the brush if you would like. But again, turn your canvas so that you can use your brush, your flat angled brush, to its advantage. And now I'm going to go in with a little bit of white and just make that highlight on that one side of his scarf to make it look round. Made it look round right there just by adding that one brush stroke. Now we're going to make the knot on his scarf, which is just another area over here. And my brush strokes are going a different way. So there might not be a whole lot of difference in the area, but it's the brush strokes. Then I go down making the tail, and then I turn my brush to the side and I go down with the second tail, because you want those tails not to be the same width. Because when you see a scarf tied on, it's not always the same width. One is always kind of like tipsy-turvy because it's tied in that knot. And so I go in and I fix some of my scarf. Now I'm going to go back in with the white swan and make the highlight on the scarf just a little bit darker. So I make that highlight, and I make the highlight with the brush strokes going in a downward motion for the knot, and then also on the tails of that scarf as well to make those highlights there. Now we're going to take that same marquee red and we're going to paint the ribbon on his hat as well. So just go along again using the corners of your brush, the end of your brush, to make that nice smooth edge. It smeared some of the black, which makes it look a little shadowed on that side, that is our shadowed side anyway. And so it worked to my advantage. So here I come in with a little bit of white and just to highlight that edge. It did kind of take some of that marquee away, so I brought a little bit of that marquee look back to the ribbon on the top, and then just smoothed out that white just a little bit more to make that blend into a brush stroke versus a flat edge. So this snowman is starting to look really cute. I am going to do this second one in fast mode so you can watch and learn from how I paint. And this one, I kind of gave him a 2 neck scarf fold in there, which you can do that with your paint, just add the little highlights. So these are completely dry. Now I'm going to go back in with the white. And you can do this step if you're not recording like I was. I wanted to keep moving along and not wait for it to dry. But if you want to do this step before you put the scarf on, it might be easier for you, is just go in and add some of that white highlight. And if this paint was a little on the sticky side, so I just misted it with my water bottle. And you can see on the left-hand side there, it's more white, and on the right-hand side, it's more shadowed. So I keep my paint to the left-hand side there, and then it's only what's ever left on my brush on the right-hand side. So again, misting it helps to make it flow around this scarf a little bit. And actually, I love the brush strokes, so I do like to see this type of a look and see where my brush strokes are. And so I'm going around that scarf and just making him more white, which now you can see the shadows in the snowman it's all about the layers. We're going to make the snow on the bottom, and we're just making it look like it's been a windy day and it's got kind of some snow drifts there. We're going to go in with a Little Black Dress, which is a DIY paint color, and just paint those eyeballs and the coal for his buttons. And this is, remember, these are rocks or coal, so they are not perfectly round. You do not have to make sure that they are perfectly round, and they can have some little bumps and edges to them because, again, they are rocks. And I'm just making them on both of the snowmen and making those rocks just irregular. And now I'm just going to go in and do the background while I wait for everything to dry. So I'm using Hey Sailor and white swan, and I'm taking a flat angled brush and going around the snowman edge. This is if you made a mistake on the outside of your snowman, you can fix it now. You can just go right over the top of it, and you'll see that how I fix some of my edges where I wasn't really happy with them, so I just went right over top of them with the background. And this is where I do like my brush strokes, and I do like the different ways that I hold my brush and how I do the brush strokes in up and down, across, angled, and just filling in with some of those fun brush strokes. And I do this all the way around the snowman. I'm filling it in with blue, and the blue and the white swan going back and forth. I don't mix the paint colors on my plate on a palette because I do like the way that they mix together right on my canvas. Now look at some of those brush strokes. Oh, I just love that look. It it just gives your painting a more artistic look to it, and it's I just really like it. So I hope that you like this as well. If you don't like the brush strokes, you're going to have to be a little bit more cautious with one solid color and not mixing and blending two colors together. But if you want to try this, I think that you will really like it. So why I paint the background after I do the snowman is because it makes the snowman pop off your canvas a little bit more than if I would have painted the background first. So painting the background first and then painting your snowman on top of the background, he kind of just sits on the background. In this case, he kind of pops off the background, and it also makes more of a shadowed look around the snowman. So you can see that he's got some dark colors, which kind of shadow that area and make him look, that's what makes him look like he's popping off of that canvas. So I hope you try this technique, and you can watch here as I do this in fast mode. We're going to make the carrot nose now, so I just make the letter C in between his two eyes, and then I go up to a point. I am covering one of his eyes because you wouldn't see both of them if that carrot was placed in the correct position. Now I just go in with a little bit of white to make that highlighted on the top where the sun would be hitting that carrot. And that is it for the carrot nose. Just making that C shape and then the point. I go in with a small liner brush to make his little smile. You can make his smile however you'd like. And then I come back in with some little white swan, and I just make the highlights in his eyes and his buttons to make him have a more artistic look to him. Here I'm going in with weathered wood, and using a smaller round brush, I'm making the sticks. You can see I'm holding my paintbrush way at the end, which makes my sticks more irregular and not quite so sharp and more like stick areas. And then I just making some little edges of my stick that are stuck out. And I come back in with white swan and highlight the stick on the top so it's just not one solid color. And you always want to highlight on the top because the shadows would be on the bottom. So highlight on the top of your sticks, the top of the carrot, the top of the hat. That's where the sun would be hitting it. So here we're going in with the second snowman. You can watch how I paint those stick arms. They can be any kind of stick arms, you know. They just use whatever they find. Now we're going in with white swan, and I am using a round brush. I think on this one I'm using an angled brush, and I'm just using the tip of it when I need to get into smaller places and making snow. So this is just white swan, solid white swan. Everything is dry. There are no colors that are going to bleed through, and I don't want the colors to bleed through when I'm actually adding the final touches of snow. I want white, crisp snow. And this adds a little character to your snowman, just if he's been sitting out in that snow a while. Now I'm adding water to my white swan, and then I'm taking it, putting my brush in there, and then I'm tapping it with the handle of another brush, making snowflakes. And you can make as many snowflakes as you want, and it's just I love this technique. It adds a lot of character to your painting, and you're just going to paint that snowman. Now we have some powder here. This is making powder in Date Night, and we're just going to make his cheeks. If you don't have the powder, you can use your own blush. So if you have blush and it's powder form, you can go ahead and just use your blush, or the making powder is available on my website as well. Now we're just going to go in and finish off some of the little details on this painting, and this is the little fringes on his scarf. With a liner brush, we're going to make those little fringes and give him just a little finishing touch. It's all in the details when you're doing a painting like this. Like, look at how much that blush added to the painting, and those snowflakes, and these little tassels on it, and then actually the snow sitting on the top of his hat that's kind of dripping down. All of these details help. After everything is completely dried, I'm telling you, you want to go in with Big Top, and it's going to seal up your painting. Look how much brighter those DIY colors are, because they do need a sealer on them. When I get to the cheeks, you're going to want to make sure that you have your brush loaded up with the sealer, and then gently go over the top of his cheeks, because that will smear it, because it is a water-based sealer, and that is just a powder on there. So you want to make sure that it's all sealed in. If you think that you didn't get it sealed quite enough, just go over it with a second coat after this one dries. But just stay very gently over top of his cheek area there. And what I do is I load my brush up with a lot of product, and I barely touch it. And then for the rest of it, as long as it's completely dry, you can go over everything else with that sealer. There we have it. Our snowmen are finished, and he looks pretty darn cute. I hope that you'll try this. I hope that you find that it is an easy process and I taught you well. So please leave a note in the comments and let me know if you're going to try this and if you learned any tips or tricks from me. This is all DIY paint, and it can be found on my website at thepaintedphotographer.com.
Well, what'd you think? Do you think you can paint one? I know you can. There's a playlist in the description below. If you'll click on that and see the rest of the snowmen, I'm sure you will enjoy them all. It was wonderful being part of this collaboration, and I hope that you subscribe, like, do all the things, give me a comment, tell me what you liked best about the video, hit the subscribe button, and you'll be able to follow me as much as you want. I really, really appreciate each and every one of you, and I will hopefully be on here before Christmas, but in case I am not, you have yourself a very Merry Christmas. And until next time, happy painting.